And good evening and welcome to City Focus. I'm Marty Olsen, your host, and tonight I'm delighted to have back a longtime friend and friend of veterans. And he's my go-to guy when I want to have a conversation on Veterans Affairs. And this past weekend we celebrated Veterans Day on Saturday, and so I thought K. Robert Lewis was the most appropriate guy to bring in to City Focus. So, K. Robert, it's a pleasure.
Appreciate your time, Marty. Thank you very much.
And this man knows his stuff. He's a real pro. And if you have any questions, this is a good opportunity to give the program a call. And he can certainly help you, guide you, and get you pointed in the right direction to take care of many, many veterans' concerns and issues.
Mm-hmm.
Not just for vets, but for their dependents, families, survivors, and related.
Correct.
So, why don't we get going here?
Okay.
I'm excited. So.
We only got an hour, so I'm gonna. I thought there were a couple of issues that area vets might be interested in, and the first is predatory claim sharks, if you will. This is
This is a new topic that you are broaching on this program.
For this program, it is. It is something that is important. It's been ongoing. It's been fueled by the extra billions of dollars that the recently passed PACT Act legislation funneled into the VA. And predatory claims agents or companies do not abide by the rules and regulations of the Department of Veterans Affairs and the federal government in that they charge veterans fees or consultations to guide them how to prepare a claim, which may be at the most half a dozen forms. Some are very in-depth though. And they don't take any responsibility for the quality of that application. The veteran has to submit it on his or her own. If there's any issues, they don't have what the Department of Veterans Affairs calls a POA, Power of Attorney form, signed with that agent, because that agent isn't qualified under the Department of Veterans Affairs and federal law to be accredited by the Office of General Counsel of the Department of Veterans Affairs, like I am.
Even if they are an attorney?
Even if they are an attorney, and shame on them if they are. But the problem, what happens is there are a couple of companies. One I'm going to name up front. Its name is Veterans Guardian. People have seen that on the news, in the news, on social media. They say that they will help guide you through the process. And in fact, a federal lawsuit has been brought in North Carolina and one in New Jersey. And a couple of the issues that are touched upon in these articles that I brought in. It's important to note that prior to 2006, in order for a veteran, an attorney to represent a veteran, the law said you can only charge $5, and then they would bill the VA. Now, the standard practice is to assist you to file an initial claim and to show you how to submit the claim and reap the rewards when your claim gets turned down, because now you have to file an appeal, and the law does allow them to charge you for that. So when this law first passed in '06, I testified before Congress and I said, if an agency knows it's not going to get paid unless a veteran has to appeal, what incentive do they have to prepare the claim right the first time? They have zero incentive, and that is playing out. And veterans are being charged anywhere from $300 to several $1,000s to prosecute a claim. And the records will indicate, I was in a class this afternoon, and just to verify, just shy of $4 billion in veterans benefit money that should have gone to the veteran are going to these agencies, based on one of the rules of thumb. If you get an award, no matter what it is, the agency will charge you 5 times that. If you get an award that's a 100% rating, say, right out the gate, and with a dependent, you may be getting $3,600 a month. They're going to 5 times that $3,600 is what you owe them, which puts it into a better perspective than when we're talking about small dollars. So that's $15,000 plus. Come through my office. We are trained by the VA. We're trained by our own law firm. We are accredited. We are a nationwide group. The American Legion, nor any veteran service organization, including the State Department of Veterans Affairs, has never charged a veteran or any client for the work that we do. And
you just take a half a step back, and that is in terms of the introduction. I mean, you work for the American Legion.
Work for the American Legion, yes, sir.
And you're the service officer, and your office is in Newington.
Correct.
And although you live and are a local boy here from New London. So
I make a lot of phone calls on the way to and from work every day, because it takes an hour plus either way. And if I have a case and I end up getting stuck. But
and you've also worked as with Veterans Affairs for Congressman Simmons when he was down in Washington.
I did. I was honored to do that, and the luck of the draw, as they say, I was pretty convinced that had we were successful in his final run, that I was going to retire in that office. But such is life. Life offers challenges, and this has been a wonderful challenge. When I left Congressman Simmons, I went to work for the Department of Veterans Affairs, and for 3 years I was the customer service training coordinator for the state and the 2,400 employees that they have. People have a hard time. At that time, there were a number of World War II veterans living, so the World War II, Korean, Vietnam, and just the start of the Gulf War. So 4 generations of people, they all communicated in a slightly different fashion. He would speak differently to a 85-year-old wife pushing her 90-year-old veteran husband up to the window than you might to a 18-year-old Army veteran who was in the National Guard and ended up getting deployed. Let's make him 22. But he would show up with his mother. So that's a whole different way of talking to people. And the government, bureaucracies, everything is tunnel vision, and it's so data driven. The people had a problem communicating, talking to each other. So we worked on that for 3 years. The opportunity to become the American Legion Service Officer came up in 2011, and I've been there ever since. And lovely job. Let me just and I'll even transition it into what my office does. We're located at the Newington VA complex, part of the VA regional office. I have a staff of 3, so count me, that's 4. 3 of us are accredited service officers. last year, and this is from January 1st of this year to November 15th today. Numbers for compensation based on our 12-month projections. We had total. This is compensation for direct compensation. Something happened to you directly. Presumptive, you were exposed to something much like this, the PACT Act and the oil fires, which we're going to touch on in a bit. Secondary, you got injured. You hurt your knee and it caused your ankle to be a disability. Or secondary, somebody develops prostate cancer, gets the prostate cancer treated, ends up with what we call residuals of prostate cancer, which is sometimes minimal, sometimes is pretty difficult incontinence. So heart issues. Compensation that you may not reach a 100% rating, but you are found to be incapable of gaining and maintaining employment. So the Department of Veterans Affairs will say that that you are individually unemployable. They will pay you at that 100% rate. So the system works. It got hammered during COVID, and they fell behind. The passage of the PAC Act, which was not in play during COVID, but directly after, authorized and pretty much received more than 900,000 claims based on the PAC Act alone. So they ended up with a bit of a backlog, and they were looking at, let's see, in March they had, and they actually did a very nice job of bringing it down. They had 611,073 claims waiting more than 125 days.
Do most veterans seek assistance with these claims, or because government paperwork can be a bit challenging from time to time, or are they able to maneuver through the system on their own, and or do you find that folks don't even know that they are entitled to benefits?
All three of those statements are true. Veterans, especially if they hang out with other veterans or are friends or belong to a veterans organization, or if they're cognizant of the PAC Act passage. One of the things that the VA, if you call the Department of Veterans Affairs in Newington to get assistance with a claim, the people at their public contact desk are going to give you the phone number for the American Legion and the DAV in the state of Connecticut and the VFW. And of course, the American Legion's on top. So we get many of those calls. People can navigate this by themselves. It's just dealing with some of the legalese and stuff. The VA has made it possible where you can file a complete claim on your smartphone. Always recommend that you at least talk to a service officer so that they can help you and say, well, you may not want to file this for an increase because if you injured your knee and your knee received a 20% disability rating, and they explain how the disability rating goes in a second, but if you received a 20% disability rating in 2020, and you say it's getting worse, you can if you file a claim for an increase. Unfortunately, given that time frame, it's like filing a new claim for that knee injury. They can grant the increase, they can keep it the same, or say, we see that your treatments are working and this is going on and you're climbing mountains and hiking, your knee is no longer 20%. It is still service connected, but it's at zero. that will happen. And when I answered the phone, when somebody runs into something like that, there's some very salty language on the other side of the line being upset. So it's our job to counsel people before they file their claims, try to make sure that they have all the information that they need to file their claims, and to assist them with any appeals. The mantra in my office is do it right the first time. Make sure they don't have to file an appeal. That means we make sure that we have the doctor's reports, that we have a copy of the veterans personnel file from when they're in the service. And people may say, well, that's not my medical file, that's my personnel file. That personnel file shows where you were and when you were there, which is important because it may not appear on your DD-214, which is your separation document. So, case in point, the PACT Act legislation, which Congress passed, is the largest expansion of VA benefits since the GI Bill, and it may even be dollars-wise, even figured out in those old dollars, larger than the GI Bill.
Yep.
It's like the Department of Veterans Affairs was kind of like, and the Congress. If you think of a drunk Santa Claus in the mall, he gave away the store. Things that the Veteran Service Organization had been fighting for years, even decades, they said, okay. One of the biggest things is for people in my age group who served during the Vietnam War era, is that we had a lot of claims for veterans that served in Thailand. And Thailand wasn't covered before, so we used to have to prove it. We used to have to fight.
And was that because Thailand was not kind of recognized?
No, it just, yeah, well, technically they said there was no Agent Orange there in Thailand. People would file the same claim when they were on Guam. And the government said there was no Agent Orange on Guam, on the Johnston Atoll, on Johnston Island. There wasn't anything there. We all knew there was. Well, lo and behold, they finally admitted it. So many Navy sailors, in our history in this part of the country, we used to have a submarine tendered USS Fulton docked in New London. Well, the Fulton was also, I believe, one of 4 subtenders, and they would rotate from different locations. And one of those, pardon me, please. And I apologize. My younger brother just landed in Kuala Lumpur. So I apologize. It probably blew everyone's eardrums out. I told him to give me a call. We speak every day and every night.
Very nice.
So on what happened, people would file a claim for things like diabetes, because if you were exposed to Agent Orange, you had a prevalence for diabetes. Remember, I talked about secondary issues before. Secondary to diabetes is diabetic retinopathy. It's caused by the diabetes. Diabetic neuropathy. So those are all secondary, and I have had a number of clients, even some very close friends, who were turned down multiple times, and happily made some phone calls after the passage of this legislation and asked them to let me refile the claims, and some of them are now receiving the compensation that they earned. And it's true. So that's on the PAC Act. That's the start, but bigger than that, and it covers, they passed legislation for the Vietnam era, the Gulf War era, and the post 9/11 era. The Gulf War and post 9/11 a lot of it is focused on the toxic fumes from burn pits and oil fires. In the desert, when they were done with something, they burned it. Everything, computers, whatever. Veterans Was it noxious at that time? Did it knock him back? Maybe, but it caused anything from major brain issues to severe respiratory issues, and we are working with a number of clients now, helping them on their cases. But this deals with brain cancer, glioblastoma, gastrointestinal cancer of any kind, head cancer of any kind, lymphatic cancer of any kind, melanoma, rhinitis, bronchitis. There's a whole list of issues, and if anyone served in those areas and has any kind of an issue, I'd encourage them to call our office. We'll gladly help them get things started. What was nice was when President Biden when he first signed the bill, they created a one-year window. He signed it on August 10th, 2022. There was a one-year window to August 9th.
So this is new
2020.
legislation.
This is brand spanking new, and there's been over 1 million claims filed. Interestingly enough, when I talked about how many dollars predatory claims agents were siphoning off, 1 out of every 3 claims issues under the PAC Act is being granted service connection, but at a 0% rating. And a lot of those are claims for hypertension. So hypertension is worse than high blood pressure, but so people are getting service connected, are upset when they don't get a crooked number rating, if you were, and I always advise them, this is your baseline. It's going to get worse unless your medication keeps you in check. And if it keeps you in check, then great, because you don't want to have to be dealing with really severe with severe issues. So
Now are the veterans in your area, as well as nationally for that matter, since this is a national program and issue, are they getting this information so they know that this is now available, and that and how does Uncle Sam distribute this, or the Veterans Administration, maybe as their agent, that this in fact is now at their disposal?
excellent question. Just before once the bill was passed, before President Biden signed it, and for that full year after, the Department of Veterans Affairs, to their credit, were on TV, social media, in the papers, doing public events, briefing veterans and families and survivors about what was about to happen, about what was happening. Because this covered from the 1950s up until now. So it's a huge swath of issues, different benefits. PAC Act, if you were in the Gulf War or post 9/11, the benefits were pretty much the same because the issues were pretty much the same. But you're presumed to have been exposed if you were on the land, on the sea there, in the Arabian Sea, in the Red Sea, or the Gulf of Oman, or in the air. Now, my niece flew AWACS. They also landed a couple of times in Turkey, so they were covered anyway. But just by flying over it, she is presumed exposed. And if she had any of these issues, she could file it. And of course, you never wish any illness on any veteran because it's not about the money. It's about the fact that you're ill, you're disabled, something happened to you that's going to affect you for the rest of your life, no matter how long that is. And some of these issues like emphysema, COPD is covered now for the Gulf War and 9/11. I was talking about Guam. The Vietnam era dates ended in 1975. Guam, those dates for Guam roll to 1979, I believe is the date. If you were in Thailand from January 9th, 1962 through June 30th, 1976, Laos, which is another place we weren't supposed to be, December 1st, 65 through September 30th, 1969. Cambodia had a very tight window because there was a very small, limited incursion in April of 1969. But Guam or the American Samoa in the territorial waters off Guam or American Samoa from January 9th, 1962, which is a common starting point, until July 31st, 1980. A veteran could have enlisted in any branch of the military and got stationed at Guam, could have been joined in 1976, post 9/11, post Vietnam.
Yep.
Got stationed in Guam, is presumed to have been exposed, and isn't eligible for the Vietnam Service Medal. Interesting though. So it expands by four years the eligibility. So obviously that covers a whole bunch of new folks, people. The educational part, and I mentioned how much the VA tried to educate everybody, as well as the American Legion. We through all our avenues, all the other veteran service organizations. People don't pay attention unless it personally affects them. So we will receive phone calls where folks want to file a claim. They want to file a claim for the PAC Act, and we have to go through the list of
And for folks to
medical
utilize
issues.
your office's services, they do not have to be a member of the American Legion, or do they?
God, no. No. We have never charged. We do not, you can almost say, we do not proselytize in my office. If somebody's interested in information about the organization which is helping them, there are pamphlets there, and if people ask me a question, I will always tell them that it's through the good graces of the membership that employs me. Our salaries are paid because members belong to the organization and pay their dues.
And, I mean, because there are other organizations, I mean, such as the VFW, the Service Veterans,
Right.
Veterans of Foreign Wars.
Disabled American veterans, a lot of folks that receive disability and get assistance from the DAV. They don't have to, but they're encouraged to sign up for the DAV. But we always look at it as far as looking towards a membership or recruitment type thing.
Yeah.
The benefits of working with a service officer or service office organization is one of the things that I like to say might entice someone to then join the organization, not tie it to joining the organization, because they won't join. They'll go see someone else. So we're always happy when.
Is there a cooperation between the different organizations, or do you guys kind of keep in your own lane, so to speak?
No, since we all pretty much do exactly the same job, we have to receive the same, and we receive the same initial training from the Department of Veterans Affairs. We receive training from our national organization. The Veterans Affairs maybe 30 hours. Ours is probably 40 hours a year that we have to go through. So everyone pretty much does the same thing. The American Legion seems to, in some documents that I received, that we seem to have more successful claims especially based on the number of claims. And I would share that.
Yeah, I mean, well, before we came on the air, you were discussing your claims in the region, and I found that fascinating.
That's a good. Our office, as I mentioned, is located in Newington. I live in New London, and when you talk about people being knowledgeable enough to contact the organization, we have 45. I have 45 clients in New London, 42 in Groton, 18 in Waterford, 46 in Norwich, 23 in Niantic, East Lyme, 10 in Old Lyme, and the numbers go up. And we have about 1,100 clients. And last year, or projected from January 1st this year, we will see our clients will see total benefits in the number of $33,651,000 at no cost to them. And I reiterate, that number's why these predatory claims agents are out there, because they see it as easy pickings.
As you've been outlining that, I'm saying to myself, I see these commercials on television, specifically for it's a domestic issue of a water problem.
Camp Lejeune.
Yes.
Yes.
And you got these myriad of legal firms that are advertising, if you have anything to do with this during this period of time, call us because you may be, eligible for.
You are entitled. They got Congress to authorize a lawsuit. So just like the tobacco settlements many years ago, what's going to happen is people who file and get a benefit, 30 to 40%, is going to go to the law firm that helped you. So as they say, the only one that's really going to get rich is the law firm. The law firm of David Boies, I believe. This was back when the tobacco settlement was done, and that was many years ago. Their law firm received over $12 billion. But you can file that claim, be part of that class action lawsuit, get a benefit from there through the lawsuit, and still file a claim for service-connected disability. So that's another thing. And so people see it, and pretty much one of the problems for people that were stationed at Camp Lejeune or one of those locales was that you had to be there, even though it was cumulative. You had to be there for 30 days or more. And many service members were there. Got assigned there for annual training, got assigned there to go to an A school. In each case, if their assignment was for a month, it was for 4 weeks, which is 28 days. The law says you had to be there 30 days. So there's a lot of folks who spent 2 weeks of their life, or 4 weeks of their life, in there getting exposed, who can't qualify under the Department of Veterans Affairs. They do qualify under the class action lawsuit, however. So that is a benefit to them.
So that's legitimate. I mean, it's not this particular issue does not fall under the umbrella of these predatory claims then.
No, which is at least a benefit and reels them in some fashion.
With the predatory issues, I mean, are there any actions that can be taken, against those who are exploiting the situation? I've got a paper here that says New Jersey becomes the first state to punish claim sharks targeting veterans. That sounds like it's pretty recent.
It's only recent, and the federal law, when they wrote the law, the only thing that the Office of General Counsel can do, and there's over 400 of these companies, and we went over in the training this afternoon as well. Like I said, over $4 billion has been siphoned off from American veterans. So there is a lawsuit. So this is called the Promise to Address the Comprehensive Toxic Act, which is the PAC Act. It's mainly on the burn pits. But this was, I think I would say the numbers are probably from August, $1.85 billion in benefits, and processed $1.65 million claims. Of them, 458,659 were PAC Act claims. Now, to the VA's credit, they set records processing these. But there's still well over 300,000 claims waiting in the hopper that have already been submitted, already been received, but they're not able to work them yet. They've been on a 2-year hiring binge. It's taken a while. They are requiring their people that get jobs as claims raters after they get trained. They are required to do, I think it's 20 hours of overtime a month, because they have to attack that backlog. But one of the reasons that it does make a difference in 2022 at this time, there was over 600,000 claims waiting. Now they're just 300,000. So they've knocked it back, and they're doing a pretty good job. But it keeps on coming. Then there's the appeals. You get turned down, you want to appeal. You call up K. Robert and say, hey, I need to file an appeal. And most of the times this happens when people didn't work with us at the start, and we find out that maybe they were turned down because the VA didn't or couldn't validate that they were at a certain place at a certain time on a certain location. So we
as I listen to you, I mean, it makes me wonder. I mean, is the VA's role when folks are filing claims to be proactive for veterans, or are they looking for reasons to not pay benefits?
Just like earlier, both of those statements are true.
Kind of like an insurance agency.
And it's
I mean,
definitely
you pay. I mean, the insurance company's in business to make money. They're not in business to pay you claims. They do their best to keep it to a minimum.
There was an old mantra in the past: delay, deny until you die. That was from Vietnam vets about Agent Orange claims. They are pretty good. It requires honorable military service. You had to have been exposed to something or injured in an accident or an incident or a presumptive exposure during your time in the service. You have to have a diagnosis of those issues that's less than 1 year old. A current diagnosis is less than 12 months old. So sometimes when we're working with veterans, the first thing that they have to do is go and see their doctor and get a updated progress note, and we can submit that. And then,
but some issues don't show up in 12 months. They may take years.
It's not showing up. It's just in order to be current. This might have happened. Say, somebody served in Thailand in the mid-70s. Well, he now has type 2 diabetes and prostate cancer. So we can help them. Their issue, then it becomes, it's not too hard to prove, but you have to have the medical documentation saying that you have it. There's no time frame for any of these issues except There are three. One is skin cancer. And so if something's presumptive, if you were in a certain place during a certain time period, you are presumptively exposed no matter how long it takes.
Have there been any claims regarding radiation exposure?
There are, exactly, and some of those were picked up in this PAC Act. In the PAC Act legislation, it covered airplane crashes in Thule, Greenland, in the Palmores Islands off the coast of Spain. People that were involved in the rescue operations because there was nuclear weapons on there, and they were presumed to have. We had to go through all sorts of research prior. Each case had to be proven on its own merits with the information from the federal government, who of course never wanted to admit that there was a radiation leak.
Yeah, I mean, we have a local guy who was involved with, a young guy who was involved with the Manhattan Project.
Yes, yes, indeed. Yep. And that was something we had another veteran who was the photographer for a lot of that. It turns out when he got out of the service, he was a well-renowned jazz musician in New York City and Paris, and I worked with his widow to get her the benefits she had earned, and that was a case of having to prove that somebody was at that place at that time. So it comes down to those issues, and the level of evidence required to prove a claim is not beyond a reasonable doubt, not a propensity of the evidence, not to a medical certainty, not beyond a reasonable doubt. It is as least as likely as not, which means everything's in equipoise. The benefit goes to the veteran. So to me, it's like if the doctor can say maybe, then the veteran gets wins it. But having the documentation, having to get someone's military documents. I had a conversation this afternoon with somebody who we submitted a request to the National Archives in the end of June for his service records. Well, the National Archives got whacked during COVID, went to a 25% staffing, had a hard time building them up, and then the PAC Act hit, and everybody and their brother are looking for their records. So they have their own backlog. So there's a backlog getting the records before you can file the claim, and there's a backlog when you file the claim. The ideal situation is we get the records from the National Archives within 60 days, file the claim, it gets reviewed and adjudicated, and the veteran has their compensation exams, and they get their benefit within another 90 days. Or at the most, it's supposed to be done within 125 days. Those were the numbers that they rolled out pre-COVID. They've been struggling to meet them, but they're doing pretty good.
Do most of vets, are they that attuned to this process to get this done? I mean, 60 days, 120 days, sitting here conversationally sounds, well, that sounds reasonable.
Right.
But in real life, it's done.
It's normally a couple of years, yeah.
And I mean, when somebody separates from the service, I mean, is this top on their priority list, or is it getting back to their family and getting a job?
Positively. That's why we encourage veterans when they're separating. There is a process called benefits delivery at discharge, where you can file a claim for service-connected issues before you get out of the service. And the VA will work with the military and do a a joint exam where they both agree on the outcome. That's very beneficial for the service member. And a lot of those claims are processed in Providence. So I like my job because just like I did when I worked for Rob, was that get to make people's lives better every day just by doing things the way that they're supposed to be done. And we strive to do them in that fashion. And sometimes we get a little bit behind the wheel because we're like everybody else and we may get a backlog. And we're doing pretty well though. We're knocking it dead, and we're very adamant about these predatory claims people.
Well, I've got to tell you, I mean, as long as I've known you, which is basically my entire life, but since you've been in this job, I mean, you really have a passion for it. And I don't know if others who are doing your job in other places, other states, but I think Eastern Connecticut is well served having you running this office. I mean, you really, and I know that you travel and that you're testifying and that you're on top of everything.
We try to be. And let me put in a plug for my very worthy compatriots who work out of Norwich, that work for the Connecticut Department of Veterans Affairs. There are 3 service officers. I forgot the new fella's name, so I'm not going to get it wrong, so I'm not going to say it. But Jeannie Gardner and Paul Spedalari work for the state, and they're local. They deal with the 2nd Congressional District, and they do a very fine job. And we spent time together at Vets Rock this past Saturday. So for 9 years, off and on, Vets Rock's either been this Friday before Veterans Day, or recently it's been on Veterans Day, which makes it difficult to do the things that you want to do with your local town. So I'm hoping that next year they go to the day prior again, or the day after, because there are things that veterans may stay home and tend to their Veterans Day programs in their hometown rather than drive down to Vets Rock, or actually Mashantucket had a veterans powwow. So things were busy, and then all sorts of restaurants offer you all sorts of cheap meals or free meals. And in our part of the state, any place you look, there are young sailors there that have been in line for half an hour, and you just tip of the hat, just going down. But this is, if you don't feel it in your bones, if you say, then don't get involved in the job, because you deal with people every day, veterans, widows, survivors, kids whose lives are impacted. Many of our clients have mental health issues, PTSD, depression, anxiety. So you're a counselor, you're a social worker, you're a claims specialist, you're a paralegal, doing all those things and trying to guide people through the process and reminding them that we're going to help them do it. And I would say, if you get a document from the VA, call me. If I get a document from the VA that pertains to you, I will call you. But for the most part, you just got to relax. And this will come. And as I said, the issue about these predatory claims, folks, there's a lawsuit in New Jersey, and there's a lawsuit against a company called Veterans Guardian in North Carolina, where I think it may turn into a class action suit because these people have no soul. Yep. They definitely have no heart, but if you have no soul, it means you shouldn't be. They're taking advantage of a system because they can take advantage of it. They're not really helping anybody other than themselves. They may say that they have assisted veterans getting all these benefits, but if they have to pay you 5 times the benefit plus you file for an appeal, they get 30% of that. You have a contract with them. Before I can help you, you have to get out of the contract with these other folks who will fight you. So call your local veteran service officer. There are some fine folks, and we like going. I know I've been invited down to Fairfield to do a local service officer training. One of the things that is important to my office is that the local American Legion posts, and I can only speak for the American Legion, are supposed to have a service officer trained enough to do the intake, just the initial interview, fill out a couple forms and forward it off. So they're very important to us, and benefits are earned. It's not an entitlement. It's an earned benefit. It's compensation for a job well done. In some cases, a job well done that it's going to end up costing you your life.
Yeah. Like, I've got to tell you, I always enjoy having you come on. You're always a wealth of information, new information, keeping things current. Mm-hmm. And so I thank you for carving out an hour to spend here on City Focus tonight. You're always terrific, and you're always welcome.
Thank you, Marty.
And I would like to just note, this is not in regards to your office, but in regards to the American Legion, because you do so much as an organization, especially for young people. I mean, mm-hmm. My introduction to the Legion and VFW was as a kid, because they sponsored Little League teams.
Little League teams?
And you got me involved as a judge with an oratory contest.
Wasn't that a surprise?
And that was terrific. And I mean, just some of the other positive things that the Legion is more than what we're talking about.
Correct.
There's so much
this is
good going on.
One of the 4 pillars of the American Legion: community, state, and nation. And that's where returning service members don't want to be treated better. They just want to be treated the same. Yeah. And recognized for their service.
Sounds good. Well, listen, I want to thank you. Maybe I'll see you
my pleasure.
On Friday at Lee Elsie's station's birthday party.
And I'll preface this by saying
cabaret.
I have a dentist appointment at 3:30, so I'm hoping I'm in good shape.
Well, I'm hoping so too.
It's going to be fun.
Folks, you've been watching City Focus, and we'll see you again next time. Good night.